Hello, everybody. This is a test of the Chicago Smart Podcast. This is just a test. This is my pilot episode. So I just wanted to put it out there to kind of talk to you guys about what I will be talking about every week. Every week, I'm going to be covering not just Chicago sports. If there's something nationally going on that I want to have an opinion on, I will do that. But kind of just to give you basically a backstory, a background of why I'm doing this and why I'm doing my own podcast. So I'm born and raised in Chicago. I guess if you want to argue, no, I don't live in Chicago right now. I live in what I guess it's called, like a village of Harwood Heights. So I live in Harwood Heights. But again, the corner technically is Chicago. I was born in Chicago, so I think I can talk about Chicago sports. But not just the proximity of to where I am to the city of Chicago, but just because it's something that's been on my mind for the last year to year and a half. It actually came about, or it actually came to fruition as I was driving my boys to camp 2 summers ago. So I'll say, well, 2 summers ago, yeah, because it was the summer of 2023. And, sometimes I'll go ahead and I'll turn on the radio on the way to take them to camp. It's about a 10-minute drive to take them to summer camp. And I'm listening, and it is July, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sorry, late June, early July. And the Cubs are doing okay. I mean, if I can remember correctly, they were doing okay. That was the first season they had Cody. I'm not Cody, excuse me, but Dansby Swanson, Cody Bellinger, I think came later on. No, I take that back. I think we did have Cody Bellinger at the time. Anyways, sorry. Again, this is a pilot, so I'll be a little bit more thorough and a little bit more accurate. Again, this is just a pilot to kind of just put it out there and kind of give you guys an idea of what I want to talk about. Um, So there's going to be some tweaks and all that, and segments and things that I'll include in future episodes. But again, back to my story. My story is I was driving my kids to camp, and that's the season or the second season where the White Sox are just all kind of just PR nightmares happening with the White Sox, and just a lot of things going on with the White Sox. As I said, the Cubs are doing okay. They look like they might make a run at the playoffs. They may not, but they're in there, right? And all this is going on, and I get it. You have a 4 hour block of programming, whether you're on ESPN 1000 or if you're on the Score 670. You have to cover 4 hours in a program. So, of course, you can't sit there and just talk baseball for 4 hours. I guess you could. But again, I don't know how that's programmed and how they structure their shows. I'm guessing that they have to have some sort of structure. I guess also depending on the news of the day, if there's any moves going on in other sports or you know, big things going on that they want to talk about and they want to dedicate a segment or two to it. But I noticed that they just kept talking about the Bears training camp is starting up, and they're talking about, you know, the Bears' upcoming season, and that's all fine and dandy because they're trying to cover time. So of course I don't expect them to sit there and talk for 4 hours about the Cubs or 4 hours about the mess that is the White Sox. It still is the White Sox at this point. Um, but again, it drove me bananas listening to these people cover a training camp or OTAs for multiple segments. Again, I'm driving my kids to school. It's 10 minutes. So for those 10 minutes, they're talking about the Bears. They go to commercial. I guess at some point in between, I'm dropping off my kids, get back in the car, drive back home another 10 minutes, come back from commercial, and they're still talking about the Bears, something about training camp and all that. And I'm like, again, training camp to me is you see if somebody comes back in shape, how does that person look? How does that chemistry look with their teams in training camp? Again, it's like spring training for baseball, or it's just practice, right? So of course, everybody's gonna look okay in practice, or it might not look that great because they haven't had the reps of, you know, throwing the ball as a quarterback or catching the ball as a receiver. But I'm guessing during the offseason, they start getting their bodies ready and they start getting, ready to do that. But again, if you haven't done something for a few months, it's going to take you a little bit to get into that groove and to get into that rhythm. I understand that. But the way they were talking about the Bears was just, they were already predicting all these things based on training camp. And I'm like, what are you guys seeing as, I guess, reporters or people that have access to the team that us fans don't have access to, from video or from you being there in person, from other person who was there, a correspondent or a beat writer that was there at the training camp and looking at them? What do they see? Because again, it's just practice. But again, this is coming from a Bears fan. I love the Bears. I've lived here in Chicago all my life. Um, and of course, I've admired other teams from afar. And I'm like, man, that'd be nice if we had that. But again, at the end of the day, I want the Bears to succeed. I would love to be able to see the Bears just compete every year and not be a hot mess. But then it caught me just like, okay, I guess yeah, they could talk about the Bears. But it just as I'm going through, July turns into August, August turns into September, they're getting closer to the season, and it's like the Cubs are moving away from that playoff spot. They look like they have it, and that last series against Arizona, it messed up everything. That series with Arizona, or I should say that last series, but one of the last series that they played that were of importance, they blew it. Plain and simple, they blew it. And it's almost like they're talking about that, but they're talking more about the Bears and Bears, Bears, Bears. And then I notice this as a trend where it's like, no matter what station you turn to here in this town, it's Bears, 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 no matter what the season is. And I know that even during basketball season, what are you really going to talk about the Bulls about? They're a hot mess. They're owned by the same owner that the White Sox are owned by. So you just see this drama and these PR nightmares and just terrible. So what can you really cover about them? But then I thought about it some more. And I'm talking to my oldest son, who at the time is 12. He's 13 now. I'm telling him, I'm like, I get it that the Bears somehow present hope because now they have, Caleb Williams and they're coming into the season. At that time, they had Justin Fields still. But again, talking about them both, Justin Fields and Caleb Williams. And it's just like, maybe you see, something different from last year. And I'm like, I'm not seeing anything different. But all I hear about every day, segment after segment after segment, is the Bears. It's like, Kevin Warren or the McCaskies or something going on. Just, hey, they're going to build the stadium or they're going to do this. And it's like that basically dominates the entire almost 4 hours of getting opinions from different people and different fans. I'm not saying you talk about it for 10 minutes and move on and talk about something else, but it's like if the Cubs are a hot mess, the White Sox are a hot mess, the Bulls are a hot mess, and here come the Bears, to fill that fall when the Cubs and the White Sox are not in that playoff picture or even contending for anything. You got to talk about something. You're not going to sit there on dead air for 4 hours, but it's just like, how are you going to sit here and tell me that the Bears are worth talking about in the offseason and baseball's not? No, if nothing's happening in baseball, what can you really talk about? Oh, where's Pete Alonso going to sign? Or where's, this guy going to sign? And or the question with Ohtani, where's he going to sign? Is he going to Toronto? He finally ended up with the Dodgers. I get it. They talked a little bit about that. And again, Ohtani's not from here. It is not a basically Chicago story. But again, it was a story nonetheless. I mean, they spent more time even talking about the Super Bowl when the Bears are nobody of proximity even to Chicago's even playing in the Super Bowl. The two people in the Super Bowl, or the two teams, I should say, in the Super Bowl are Philadelphia and Kansas City. Same thing as last year. Kansas City, yes, is close to Chicago, and I guess somebody's rooting for them for that three-peat. That's great. That's wonderful. You got to cover these stories, cover them. The Super Bowl is happening. It is a current topic. You want to cover it, cover it. That's cool. No problem. But I'm so tired of hearing about, and I'm sure I can name these people or these personalities without getting in trouble, but I'm tired of hearing Mully. I'm tired of hearing Cap going completely gaga over the Bears and Caleb Williams and everything. I want the team to succeed more than anything in this world. I would love to be able to go from, man, the Cubs had a great season. They contended for a World Series. They didn't make it, but they contended really hard. They made it to an NLCS, or they made it to the division round. They've made it to all these, different rounds. They look like the good team that they're going to be there consistently, of course, or even competing for a World Series. That would be great. I would love that. And then to go from that and saying, okay, now I now have my Sundays covered. I may not have every day covered, but I'll have my Sundays covered. Man, I can't wait to see those Bears and how they're going to do against these other juggernaut teams when they play at Detroit, or when they play within the division against Green Bay, or if they play a really good team, in Kansas City, that they can actually compete and not get slaughtered, right? I'd love to see that. That's great to have not a lull, to go from literally season to season to season and be able to pick up one of the teams in Chicago. Um, I'm okay with hockey. I understand the rules of hockey, but I'm not a big follower of hockey. I would have to actually depend on another friend of mine who knows more about hockey to tell me, what teams are really good, other than basing it on the record or what the teams are on the come up. So I won't talk a lot about hockey, just because I don't want to. I don't want to talk about a sport that I'm not really into too much, unless the Blackhawks are really good, and then I'll get into it a little bit more. but I'm not one to follow like other hockey teams, um, other than the Blackhawks and when they're good. But again, to be able to go through season through season through season and not have a lull to go from, all right, Super Bowl's over. Spring training's coming. Baseball's coming. I love baseball. Even when the Cubs are not good, it hurts to see other teams succeed, but I enjoy it. I really, really enjoy watching baseball, especially when it's two good teams and it's a great matchup. You have a Yankees Dodgers or the Yankees Boston or the Cubs and the Cardinals or the Sox and whoever, whoever might be the rival, because I don't even know if the Sox even have a rival other than within their division, right? Because again, I'm a Cubs fan. I don't really follow the White Sox like that to know who really are their rivals, but I understand them and I root for them too that they can win, except when they play the Cubs. But again, to go from that lull, like I'm saying, from season to season to season, and not have any boredom in there as a sports fan, that'd be great. But I mean, I'm not the only one that's noticing this. I'm seeing things on social media. I'm seeing other friends talking about it on their social media that I'd say, season's over. Why are we still talking about the NFL, even when the NFL is over? Yes, and I'm talking about after the Super Bowl. After the Super Bowl, yes, you can cover, wow, Kansas City three-peated, or wow, the Eagles stopped them from three-peating. Like, we can talk about that for a few days. But once April rolls around, unless it's, about the talking about the new draft pick that the Bears pick, that's great. But again, it literally feels like it's year round. It doesn't matter if it's January or if it's April or if it's May or if it's in the middle of the summer, they're always talking about the Bears. And this is not me saying that I don't want to hear about any football talk. If it is something that is of substance to talk about the Bears or football in general, please let's talk about it. But what I want to talk about is, why are we always talking about football? Why are we not talking about baseball? Why are we not talking about baseball during baseball season? And I get it. There's not much to talk about when two of the teams in Chicago stink or having problems or not hitting or whatever's going on, or they're going for a record and losses like the White Sox went last year. And they did. They talked a lot about it, but they talked about the more the behind the scenes and the mess and everything that was going on with Pedro Grafal and just a huge mess. And every time Jerry Reinsdorf even spoke, it became the circus. It was a circus. They talked about this circus that was the White Sox, and I just say I get it, but they do the same thing with the Bears. They talk about the circus with the Bears, with Eberflus and Nagy before him, the circus that was with those two guys, and the repeated, almost Groundhog Day, occurrences of Eberflus not knowing how to call a timeout and blowing games, or and again, his name escapes me right now, but that Hail Mary that the Commanders threw, and the safety was just looking up at the sky, basically taunting the crowd when the game's not over yet. And I get it, right? The play happened as he's talking and taunting. He turns around, play is happening, right? I get it. You want to talk about that, and we should talk about that. But after a few days, just like milk, it expires. I don't want to hear about it anymore. Again, this morning, I'll give you a good example. How much more can we talk about Ben Johnson? I hope that the man turns this team and this franchise around as the coach and bringing in all the other coaches he brings in and bring some sort of accountability to this team. Of course I do. But how much more can you talk about Ben Johnson until the man starts to do the job next fall? You cannot talk anymore about him. You're now covering him, asking players, well, how do you feel about him? Well, how do you feel about him? And talking to former players, I get it. They have to fill time. But me as a fan, I'm tired of hearing about the Bears. I really am. I'm tired of hearing about football, period. After the Super Bowl, I don't want to hear about football anymore. But again, you got these callers that call in and say, well, what about this? And what about the Bears? And I'm going to give you a great example. Right after the Cubs finished their 2016 um, championship run, again, it ran into football season because they went well into October and into November with that game 7. After the Cubs came off the parade route and they were interviewing some of the Cubs that came off the floats and the parade route and all of that, they interviewed Miggy Montero, which we know what he said. They interviewed all the players. Everybody that the two stations could interview, they interviewed them. And I remember this distinctly because I was listening at my desk at work because I went to the parade because it was not too far from where I worked, and I went with my boss to go see them at the parade. I didn't get that close. I didn't get to the route, but I was there when they were passing by one of the streets there by Michigan Avenue. Um, and I'm listening at my desk as I usually was during that time, and I was listening at my desk and I'm listening and talking to them, and they shifted and they got a caller on and said, "Hey, what did you think? Were you there?" Asking people, what was it like being there? You know, what did you see? Did it feel good? Wow, what a beautiful November day this was. This guy gets on. I apologize. I don't mean to stereotype everybody that lives in Chicago because I'm sure that if anybody were listening to me, I might have a little bit of a Chicago accent where I say sausage or it might not sound right. But this man called in and it makes me laugh because I still remember. And I wish that this would have been available somewhere for me to record this man. But he says, that's great. The Cubs won, and I was rooting for them all the way. But when are we going to talk about the Bears? I can't wait to talk about the Bears. And I'm like, what was there to talk about the 2016 Bears that was going to trump the story of the moment, which was this team winning after 108 years, and not just winning, right? This was the most dramatic, and at least for me, um, heart attack inducing series that I'd ever seen. Again, this is my team. I've been following this team since I was 6 years old, since I can probably remember even before then. But again, I remember going to my first game in 1988 before they put the lights up. They put the lights up in August. I think I might have went in June or July. And I wish I could remember what was the exact date of the game that I went to. But I remember it was against the Mets. Or was it San Francisco? I can't remember. Again, my memory's kind of foggy. I'm 43 now, and I went when I was 6 years old to go see the Cubs the first time, and I was rooting for them. This was my team. They were finally gonna break through, and they finally broke through. And this man gets on the phone and says, "That's all great and fancy. Let's talk about the Bears now. Season's over." Imagine if the Bears were to win the Super Bowl, whether it's this year or in the coming years. They win the Super Bowl. Everybody's obviously, of course, ecstatic that they won the Super Bowl. They do their parade, they do whatever they do their celebration, and guess what happens, right? Happens right around February, right? That's when pitchers and catchers start reporting for camp. Imagine I call in and say, "That's fantastic. The Bears won. Now let's not talk about the Bears anymore. I want to talk about spring training." Somebody's going to tell me, and I would hope somebody would tell me, "What are you, nuts? They just won the Super Bowl. Let us relish this victory. Let them talk about it for a little bit longer. The day that they get off that float, the day that that parade ends, I said, all right, season's over. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it some more. It's fine. So the victor go the spoils. Let's talk about it. But no, let's talk about the Bears because that's all this town is ever going to talk about is the Bears, the Bears, the Bears. Look, I was only 2.5 years old when the Bears last won their Super Bowl. I don't remember it. Yes, have I seen it in the years since? Right, on the NFL Network. And the stories that I've heard from the people that have seen the team, of course, obviously older relatives of mine, uncles and cousins and friends and all that were there and are old enough to remember and actually remember seeing the Super Bowl. That team was great, and there's no argument about that. I am not going to argue about that, but there is a very distinct anniversary that's coming up this year, and that is the 40-year anniversary of the Bears winning the Super Bowl. And I'm sure that they should celebrate it, and they should celebrate it. If they're going to celebrate it, they should celebrate it. But let's not take our eyes off the prize, people. If they are going to wave Ben Johnson as the shiny new toy and the 40-year anniversary of the Bears and then put the same crap product on the field, I don't want to hear anybody else talking about it. I don't want to hear Cap saying, "Oh, Jim, I don't care. I don't care." I hope that he comes into town. I hope the memories are there. I hope they share the stories. I hope that everybody gets that nostalgia they're looking for. I am so glad and really would hope. I'm sorry. I would so be glad to hear that and relish that moment. But I wasn't there, so I don't have that feeling. But of course, I'm going to be like, that's great. That's wonderful. The people that actually remember this team. But let's not forget that the team that they're going to put on the field is what's going to matter. Because if they're going to blindside you with this 40-year anniversary and give you Ben Johnson as the shiny toy and be like, well, give us a year. Let them get acclimated. We're going to see some changes. I'm not asking for a Super Bowl this year. That would be great. That would be wonderful if they went from this mess that they were this year to the Super Bowl. Because anything can happen in the NFL. That is wonderful. But I don't see that yet. Again, this is just February. The Super Bowl's not even over. The next season hasn't even technically started yet. I'm going to hope for the best for them. I really want to hope for the best. But until that team shows you that they're serious about winning instead of waving a shiny new toy, then these people need to stop with these spending the money for the reunions, buying everything that these people are selling you, because what they're selling you is a dream. Until they actually show you that they're serious, the McCaskey show you that they're serious about winning, I don't understand why we keep talking about this team. Because people will tell me the same thing about the Cubs until the Ricketts show that they're serious about winning, and instead of breaking even, then maybe you shouldn't support them. You're right. The last time that I went to a Cubs game, I paid for one. I went to 3 Cubs games last year. I paid for one because it was for my birthday weekend, and I went. I didn't buy expensive seats, even though all the seats are a little expensive. They were a little pricey. I didn't buy, super expensive seats because I went with my wife, my 2 kids, and a bunch of friends that we got together, and we went. Um, I will not buy season tickets because one, I can't afford them. But even if I could, I would not buy season tickets for the Cubs. And as a diehard Cubs fan, unless I won them somehow, then of course I'll take them. But I'm not going to continue to support a team that doesn't seem like they want to compete. And I get it. What the heck do you do every day when the Cubs are on TV if you don't want to support them? I will love them. I'll support them. I'm going to root for them. But for me to go out there like a goofball and buy season tickets and buy everything they're selling me, don't think so. Same thing with the White Sox. Same thing with the Bulls. Same thing with the Blackhawks. But it seems to me that at this town, they're more gaga in love with the Bears. These people are selling you a dream. So into that dream comes a reality, and you actually start seeing it become a reality. I don't see how we keep making them the story of the day. I hope that Ben Johnson comes in here and does everything that he says he's going to do. I really do. I hope that he does everything he says he's going to do, from accountability into making this a winning team. But there's a lot of holes on that team that they need to fix as far as that offensive line. And there's a lot of things that they need to cover before this team can actually even be considered a serious contender for anything, even in the division. I am tired of hearing about football, and that is my point today. And I've said this probably 1,000 times since I started this podcast. And again, I'm tired of hearing about them. I'm tired of hearing these people on the radio selling me bull crap and then talking out of the same hole out of their mouth, talking out of the other side of it. They're telling you they're great, they're great, they're great. Then all of a sudden, at the end of the season, they were trash. Well, what did you just sell me at the beginning of the season that I had to get on the ground floor? That, oh my goodness, you don't want to miss this. This guy is this guy is that. Oh, guess he wasn't everything I said. There's nothing wrong with being wrong and making a prediction and saying, man, my prediction was way off. But they don't talk about that. They talk about it as if this was never spoken about. When we have social media and everything on social media comes up there, people can save tweets, people can save, posts, people can save articles, people can save anything that they want to save and come back and shove it in your face. And the people that are worst in this town, I'm going to tell you right now, that will buy the bullcrap that they sell you are Dave Kaplan and Mike Mulligan. Mully is the biggest bear shill ever. And I get it that he used to cover the team. And what is he going to do? He's going to sit there and tell you for 4 hours, the crap, all right, we're going to break. I get it. He has to talk about something positive, or he has to find something positive in a negative story, right? Or even a negative story to put some sort of positive spin on it, or to put some light to that negative story. I get it. Their job is to go out there and tell you from their point of view what they think about a particular subject. But it's becoming very apparent in this town that this is a football town. No matter how many championships are brought here, this is a football town, right? That same summer of 2023, I was listening about the Bulls making the play-in as the 10th seed. And I remember specifically Dave Kaplan or Cap saying, you Bulls fans are nothing but lemmings. You guys just keep buying everything that this team sells you. Oh, look, there's this nostalgia, jersey. I'm gonna go buy it, or I'm gonna buy all this because of the Last Stand. You're talking about lemmings in Chicago being Bulls fans when you're the biggest lemming for the Bears. You're the biggest lemming for the Cubs. Let's be honest. This man talks out of both sides of his mouth and never ever says I was wrong. He'll just sit there and just scream a little louder, and it's just like, why I get it. He has a platform because that's what that station hired him to do. So my point of this whole entire podcast is, why not me? Why can I not have those same opinions and have a counter opinion to what these people say on the radio? This is my counter opinion, and I'm not always going to counter what they say. I may agree with what they have to say and bring some light to that from a fan perspective. So that's what this podcast is going to be about. This podcast is going to be about me talking about topics that are grinding my gears a little bit and are kind of on my mind. And instead of me telling it to my 13-year-old who listens and, chatters back with me based on what I'm telling him, what he's hearing as well. But I say, why not me? Why can I not have a platform that talks about that and says, hey, I'm not satisfied with what I'm seeing, right? What Tom Ricketts said a few weeks ago during the CupsCon weekend when he was talking to the score, and then he also talked to Cap before. He talked to Cap during his podcast, the recap podcast that he does. And then he talked to the guys at the score from the Cubs convention. And he took a little bit of issue when they said that the Ricketts are cheap. Well, sorry that that's the perception you're giving when your tickets are through the roof, right? And they asked him specifically, what do you say to a fan who tells you that the Cubs tickets are too expensive or the concessions are too expensive? Well, the reason that Pepsi is $5, by the way, that Pepsi is not $5, Pepsi is actually more and it's a watered down Pepsi, is because I have to pay for a $20 million pitcher. Really? What $20 million pitcher do you have? Is it Taillon? Is it Steele? Again, I'd have to go back and do my research and find out who's that $20 million pitcher he's talking about. Maybe again he's just using it in general term. He's not speaking about anyone in specific. But again, I'm not gonna buy that. Everything around there, that's Ricketts land. That's what I call that. I call that Ricketts land. The hotel across the street, the Hotel Zachary, right? The building, the Gallagher Way, the sports book. You're gonna tell me that they're gonna attach a sports book to Wrigley Field, and you're gonna be like, okay, really? And not get any profit from it? Look, I get it that you cannot spend like the Dodgers. The Dodgers have a different sort of TV contract than you do, but again, you can spend, right? And again, spending doesn't always win championships because the Mets proved that a few years ago, that spending out of the wazoo is not going to bring you a championship, right? You gotta spend wisely. But again, if there's somebody out there, I'm not advocating for them to have saying Juan Soto, right? That's a lot of money to invest in one player, and Ohtani too. That's why I'm sitting here, and that's why those people have those jobs there. So that's why I depend on them to make the decisions that maybe I don't see. Maybe Jed and Tom see something I don't see. I cannot believe that Tom is not involved a little bit in telling Jed, hey, right? He sets a budget, right? He can't just tell him to go spend freely. And I get it. If he wants to spend a little more, Jed said, hey, there's somebody available. And I'm going to use Bregman as an example because he's the hot topic out there right now. Hey, I see that we can bring in Bregman for this much, but it's going to cost us, maybe Nico, or it's going to cost us this, or it's going to cost us that, right? And again, he's a free agent, so it's not like they're trading, but again, that's just the rumor that's out there. I don't know how they can make it work. I don't know what their budget looks like other than what's there. Because again, it's what they present to the public, but I don't see their books. I'm not their accountant. I'm not the guy that sees their books. But I find it very hard to believe that you guys cannot go out there in one of the biggest markets in the world and go out there and contend, not only with your wallet, but spend wisely, right? Why are we arguing about, money when you guys are clearly rich? You guys are billionaires, and I get it. You got to pay the manager, you got to pay the team, you got to pay the players. I'm sure that there has to be some sort of separate allocation. Again, I'm not an accountant. How does that work, right? How do they pay the workers, right, that work there, right? The front office people, Jed's salary, where does that come from, right? Obviously, Ricketts pays it, but how does he pay that? Is that different from the player salary? This is things that I want to get educated on. I want to educate you guys on. And if somebody can educate me, that would be fantastic. That would be great. To somebody gave me some sort of feedback on that. How does that work? Because again, when I went to these games, things are expensive, right? Tickets are expensive. How do I bring my family of four to a baseball game, right? Other than when it's either school time, when they say, hey, it's the end of the year, we're going to give you guys a deal. If you bring your kid down, they'll get a free hot dog, free drink. And I believe they offered that at the beginning of the season. I believe it's April till I don't know when the beginning of the season, where it's still kind of cold, and then again at the end of the year when it's kind of getting cold, and again it's towards the end of the year, but the kids have started school, right? How do you justify that instead of saying, hey, you know what? You guys come out on Mondays, whether it's Monday in the day game, or a Monday night game, for whatever that reason, there's a Monday night game or even a Friday night game. We're going to give you guys an incentive if you come in before a certain time, tickets are this, or drinks are this, right? But again, we don't offer that. We're just told, man, you are paying for the privilege to come into one of the best ballparks in the world and see one of a steel storied franchise. That's fantastic. But when there's hot garbage playing in the middle of the field, and again, this is coming from a Cubs fan, and I'm speaking about the team this year, but there's been times where they put hot garbage on that field and try to justify it and say, you're seeing the future. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about us pushing back as fans and saying, no, I'm not getting season tickets this year because guess what? They haven't proven to me that they've earned my trust and earned my dollars. Because as a season ticket holder, there is certain privileges that you do have, and I do feel like there is some sort of survey that goes out. If I'm not mistaken, I thought I saw this at the Cubs convention where they gave some people some surveys, not just about the Cubs convention, but about as their experience as a fan, as a season ticket holder, because they also get to sit in the front. They have like front row seats during the Cubs convention. That's great. Some even people give pins. I understand. I know that happens with the White Sox, and they always don't get it right about how long the person's been a season ticket holder. But again, um, there has to be more accountability from us fans. We need to push back. And if that stadium needs to be empty, be empty. You want to watch them at home. And I get it. Hey, then I still have to subscribe for Marquee. I get that. But a subscription to Marquee is cheaper than a ticket to go to see them. And guess what? A family of four can sit, or you can get a whole lot of people to come into your house, depending on how big your house is, on a summer day, or even put it on a projector outside for a whole lot of people to come and watch it. You can charge them if you want to. You make it sort of like a party kind of thing, or you can. But again, we need to push back. I'm tired of hearing about these people on the radio pushing to you guys and us fans this dream, this dream, this dream. I don't want to push it anymore. I want to see results. That's what this podcast is going to be about. It's going to be about results about baseball. I'm then going to record a separate podcast about professional wrestling because I am a professional wrestling fan. I mean, if I feel like something that I want to talk about and mix the two together, I may, but I want to kind of keep them separate. And I don't want to do that to elongate the program. I want to specifically concentrate on one type of sport per se. So Chicago sports is baseball, football, basketball, hockey a little. If there's something for me to talk about or something I can talk about in an educated way, I will speak about it. Professional wrestling on that side, I'll speak about that in a different manner. Because again, we're talking about I don't want to say a real sport to a fake sport because it's not fake. These men and women in wrestling do really get injured. It is choreographed, it is predetermined, but they do put in a lot of effort. But again, that's for the wrestling podcast. Again, this is my challenge. This is my pilot episode, and this is what I'm going to be talking about every week is Chicago sports and how I'm fed up and I won't always be so negative. If there's something positive to talk about, man, I want to talk about something positive. But I'm going to push back on the narrative that is being pushed on the radio that we have to talk about these teams positively because I haven't heard it. And again, I don't sit and listen to the radio the entire day. But I have still yet to find anything where somebody has pushed back and said, okay, great, they have Ben Johnson. Great, they have Craig Counsell. Great, they have this new manager with the White Sox, right? And I cannot remember his name, and I apologize. No disrespect to the White Sox manager because I cannot think of his name right now. I'm sorry, I believe it's Will Venable. Please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. To say, that's great. Now, what are you going to do for the future, right? That's great. Sammy Sosa's back in the franchise. That's wonderful. I'm glad that you guys made amends. But now, what about the future? What does the future look like, right? We've signed a lot of guys from the Cubs. Sox haven't signed too many people. Again, they're selling the future. You're seeing what they're selling. That's the young kids. What about the Bulls? What are they doing? Now they're going on another massive rebuild. I know they're talking about it, but why are we not pushing back? Why is nobody asking the questions that need to be asked? And I get it. Tom Ricketts couldn't sit there and get grilled for 5 minutes because he's going to leave. I'm sure that, Cap and the gentleman that interviewed him, which was, oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank. It was Ryan McGuffey, who used to work for the White Sox, I know on NBC Sports Chicago, and I cannot remember I'm sorry, Bruce Levine. Sorry about that. They interviewed him and they asked him that question. He took a little bit of issue to that question about the spending. But again, I'm not saying that these men get on the radio and you grill them and you make them feel uncomfortable and you talk like a bonehead. I'm simply saying there's a way for you to ask these questions and push back against this narrative of we're doing everything we can. Really? So if you're going to push the future, right, as far as the White Sox, they're a little bit more fair in pricing. I think so, at least from the last time I'm there. I can at least can say that at least they're a little bit more fair on pricing when it comes to concessions and tickets to go see the games. The Bulls, they're super expensive to go see them. To see what? People go see other teams. They don't go see the Bulls sometimes because the Bulls don't have anything for you to go see. I miss watching Bulls basketball. I will catch highlights if one of my kids are not watching TV. I might turn it to the channel because I don't have cable. I have the antenna, and I can catch the station really easy, um, and not have a problem catching it. But when are we going to start pushing back and start asking these owners? When are you guys going to start putting a better product on the field or a better product on the court and stop selling for these people? I'm tired of hearing all this selling for these people. Oh, this is great. This is great. This is great. Show me. You're telling me that the Bulls have made the playoffs every season as a play-in. That's nothing but a wild card to me. That's great. That's wonderful. But if they could get a little further, then I can start buying it. But they don't get past maybe the first or that second round of that play-in, then they're gone. Then they're an afterthought. All these teams making all these moves, and the Bulls are just in the middle here doing nothing. That has a lot to do with the owner. That has a lot to do with that history. Go watch that Last Dance. If you haven't watched it, I'm sure that there's been a lot of people who have seen it, but for those who have not watched it, go watch that Last Dance and tell me who would want to come here with that cheap owner that they got. The guy's a cheapskate on the baseball side and on the basketball side. And I don't care for you to tell me, well, his son runs the team. His son runs the Bulls. It doesn't matter. It's daddy's money, and daddy tells him what to do with the money. At the end of the day, we need to ask for more. And that's what I'm asking for us to ask for more. Start pushing back. Start making those calls to 6-7 to score. Start calling ESPN 1000 and asking those hard questions. Because I guarantee you, they're going to either call you a meathead, they're going to call you a bonehead, or they're going to hang up on you because they don't want to hear it. They want to hear the guy saying, oh my God, I can't wait to go outside and cook my sausage with peppers. I want to see the Bears. They want you to be stuck in this forever just loop of believing, and not seeing crap on the field. I'm tired of it, and that's what this podcast is going to be about from a fan's perspective, to tell you what's really going on and how we should really be viewing things. Thank you, guys.